Blake Griffin got bought out, and then he ended up signing an agreement with the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah, Brooklyn just adds another piece to their team. I'll let you go first. What were your thoughts on this acquisition and the fit the Nets?
Well, I mean, I'm watching Celtics Nets right now. Blake is not suited up, but he's at the game. Um, I thought it was interesting because I understand from a talent or from a championship perspective, you want as much talent as you can get. But from a fit perspective, he doesn't improve them, in my opinion. Like he doesn't improve any of their weaknesses. I think obviously we know that Blake can score pretty well. Like he was averaging like 14 points per game or something with the Pistons. He's not amazing. And I don't think he's going to be a starter for them. I would imagine he comes off the bench. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. But I mean, we his game just really hasn't evolved. He's not what he used to be. I think a lot of players you see like LeBron is the most extreme example. He's covered up the fact that he's lost athleticism with these other things that he's built. He's way stronger now than he used to be. He has a really strong post game. He's become a much better shooter, especially at those post fadeaways. So he doesn't have to use his speed, his quickness, and just like overwhelm people with his athleticism like he did when he was younger, because he's starting to lose that. So he compensates in other ways. Blake doesn't feel like he's done that. I mean that stat that he hasn't dunked since December of 2019 is still just mind-boggling to me. Being a guy who is renowned for being one of the best dunkers in the NBA, he's not an amazing shooter. He doesn't really play in the post that much. Maybe that'll change with the Nets, but he's just one of those guys who feels like he's always sitting out on the perimeter trying to play like a guard. Um, I don't know. I will say the one thing he does bring them is passing as a big man. He's a good passer, especially out of the post. When he does go in there. So I think he provides some passing, some scoring, some things that the Nets could use off their bench. But I mean the big issue, the thing that people are still criticizing the Nets for is their defense. I don't think that he makes an impact there really whatsoever. So yeah, my concerns about the Nets when it comes to their potential finals run and shot at a title, they're still the exact same, and it doesn't feel like adding Blake to me really increased their chances at winning it all because they already have really elite offense. So adding a bit more of that to me just it doesn't change much.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I wouldn't say drastic changes. It doesn't hurt them. I will say that.
Yeah,
Adding him, and yeah, I like the points you all mentioned. Just another player, another solid player. Even if he's only getting even if he's still putting less numbers than he did in Detroit. I think they'll take that. Especially like we kind of mentioned before, or depth was maybe a little bit of concern. Now it won't be. However, I am still concerned. Especially with Durant's injury right now because he had to get reevaluated. And I would say he's their best player all around. And then Blake's had an injury history. Granted it was with the Pistons, so maybe he took he was extra careful since they weren't ever really competitive. So yeah, I would agree in regards to everything you said too. Not a great shooter. I mean, I see him more as kind of the sixth man, kind of running with the bench. I don't think he'll start just because DeAndre Jordan is still really good at rebounding and good rim protector. While Blake is still a solid rebounder, but once again, like you mentioned, not great at defense. I'm not gonna say he's horrible, but not so great, especially now that he's lost some of his athleticism coming in. But yeah, I mean, maybe if anything, once again, like you hit, I think he just makes their offense potentially better. Better passer. He could pop or a better pick and roller, more versatile as opposed to DeAndre. Where he's probably just gonna roll. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it works. There's another guy out there that I think is a more intriguing fit, but good for Blake. It's a shame that remember he was supposed to be the guy in the Clippers, and then things changed very quickly, and then got traded to Detroit, and things have just not worked out in Detroit. It's kind of all falling apart there, and I really don't put that on him. He's only one guy, and we all know even at that point he's not going to carry your team. He's really good at that point, two or three. So we'll see if he can back to that level of being a really good two or three. As of now, he's more. I don't want to insult him, but more of a role player, things like that. But we'll see. Maybe things like you mentioned, he hadn't dunked in almost 2 years. maybe accompany that to once again Detroit's roster stinking, and teams just focusing on him. I mean, so we'll see. Maybe things will open up more in Brooklyn, and he'll get a freaking dunk again, which I imagine he will. I mean, but I could be wrong. He might. I don't know. This part, you know, I'm not sure if the curse will apply to him because we're not talking bad about him that bad. So we'll see. But if
Yeah,
you play daily fantasy, go pick him up whenever he does play.
yeah, and I will say he hasn't had a playmaker like Harden or Kyrie or even Durant, since he was with Chris Paul in LA. So, which is no disrespect to anybody that Detroit had, but even Derrick Rose, I think everybody would agree that James Harden's a better playmaker than Derrick Rose is. So, um, that that could help. I think like you said, he'll probably dunk again, but uh, compared to Detroit, he doesn't have to create his own shot as much, and so he has other guys that can help create it for him. Um, so it'll be interesting. I know that some Nets fans are already talking like they're going to revive his career and he's going to be this crazy player again. Once I agree with what you said. I think he's at this point more of a role player, maybe a little bit better than a role player would be just because of the experience, the things that he still can do, and being the veteran that he is. So yeah, I mean, I think that he overall improves their offense, like you said. But I mean, I still have those same concerns with their defense and all those kind of things overall. But I will applaud the Nets and Blake at least. Um, he signed a really cheap deal,
Yeah,
so it's 1 million. That's like nothing. I think any team in the league would sign Blake Griffin for 1 million. Like it's an incredibly low risk, high reward deal because on the off chance that Blake does still have a lot left in the tank and he just wasn't like maybe he didn't want to be there in Detroit, he wasn't giving his all, uh, the scheme didn't fit, all these different kind of things. If all those things kind of get remedied in Brooklyn and he does have a little bit of a revival in his career and he's playing like a starter again and all these kind of things, then yeah, it was an incredibly low risk deal, really cheap, and they still have money to go sign other guys that do potentially fix those holes.
yeah. So while we're on the topic, we'll go on to the next